Well, hello again, everyone, and welcome to the Eddie Sutton Show. We took a little holiday break. We all hope that you had a great holiday season. I know we did. Grandkids help you to have that holiday season, don't they?
They certainly do. I have two of them, and you have...
two as well, and we just had a great time. While we were away, while we took our short break, Cowboys put 4 more wins on the board, now 11-1 on the year.
You know, if someone had asked me before the season began if we would be 11-1, I would have doubted that. And yet we had a chance to go undefeated up to this point, and stubbed our toe the other night against a good University of Nebraska ball club. But we did extend our non-conference winning streak in Gallagher-Iba Arena, which is really remarkable. It's been over a decade, 78 straight games that we haven't lost a game in our arena.
Well, let's take a look at some of those highlights now. We're talking about the Jackson State, Arkansas State backup games right before the break, and it is amazing. 78 in a row, as we've said so many times. We've had a lot of tests during that 78-game run.
Played some good ball clubs during that stretch, and these two teams right here are pretty good ball clubs. Jackson State was in the NCAA last year, probably will be there again this year. Arkansas State, one of the best teams in the Sun Belt, the only team to have beaten University of Hawaii. So there have been a lot of quality teams come through Gallagher-Iba, but that's a record that I think our seniors kind of breathed a sigh of relief, because when that streak ends, I don't think the senior class wants to be the one that's remembered for. There's Santa Claus.
Well, Santa came to that game, and he might have brought a gift or two to the Cowboys. That Jackson State game, now that went down to the wire.
Well, Jackson State has a good ball club, very good athletes, and we had a horrible shooting night, 33%. They had a guy by the name of Hall came in there and really lit us up in the second half, and just didn't do a good job defensively with him.
And Arkansas State, a little bit of a payback here. Cowboy players remember that trip over to Jonesboro last season, and they kind of evened the score a little bit.
Well, 3 teams that beat us last year, I think that really added to our woes. We've come back and taken care of business this year. Arizona State, Oral Roberts University, and Arkansas State. All 3 of those ball clubs beat us last season.
Pretty good move by Joe Atkins right there, wasn't it? Or
Pete.
Or was that Pete taking it to the hole, a little spin move?
There's Joe.
Back to back right there. Cowboys.
We've had good team play offensively. The one area that we've got to continue to get better is defensively. This ball club isn't athletic enough. If we don't play solid team defense, if we don't take good shots, and if we don't play hard, we're vulnerable to be beaten by anybody in our league.
Well, people are still talking about that heart-stopping win down there at TCU. We have wall-to-wall highlights this week, so you stay with us. We're going to bring you back and show you the game against TCU and A&M. That's all coming up on the Eddie Sutton Show. Well, welcome back to the show. That sounded like some of the crew down there in San Antonio. I know you've heard this story, but down in the Alamo Dome, the loudest cheer of the night came when they announced the score from Fort Worth, Cowboys beating TCU. That must have been something to watch in person.
Well, it was a great game, and maybe the best game we played. And there's Billy Tubbs, a great friend of mine. And when they throw the ball up, we don't become friends, but after the game or before the game. And Billy's done a remarkable job down there with the TCU ball club. It has one of the outstanding teams in the WAC conference. They've got a chance to be in the NCAA tournament come March. Brett had a great game against the Horned Frogs. He hit a double-double, 23 points, 10 rebounds. Joe Atkins lit it up for 26 points to lead us. But it was a seesaw game, and I think that game gave us a lot of confidence, because last year we only won one game on the road, and that was against Texas A&M.
Well, it was a game that Cowboys got off to a great start, as I recall. Obviously not there, but the fact is you got off, you beat the press, got up on them early, got some momentum.
Well, they were pressing us, and we really executed our press breaker well, and we jumped on them 31-21, and then let them get back in the ball game. And then in the second half, every time they'd make a run at us, well, we were able to hold them off, and it was just a great ball game. And you know, the one thing, when I was at Arkansas, we went down there 11 times, and the place was always packed, because you had about as many Razorback fans when we played TCU in Fort Worth as they had the Horned Frog fans. But this was the first time in 36 years that they had had a sellout against a non-conference opponent, and their crowd did everything to try to help them win this ball game.
That is an amazing stat, considering that they have had pretty good teams in the past.
They've had some good coaches down there, and they've had some outstanding ball clubs, but it just, I read that in a paper, I just couldn't believe it. We did a great job on that young man. He's really a good basketball player, Lee Nyland. He's a cousin to one of our former players.
We saw Desmond Mason on one end with the block, taking the ball away. On the other end, gets a great pass from Gottlieb and scores. And this was a game, and you and I have talked about this before off the air, that for us to be successful game in and game out, everybody has to contribute, because if one or two players don't show up for the job that particular night, it's going to be tough to win.
Yes, it is. TCU has a couple of Oklahomans and both very good players, Johnson and Jones, and we did a decent job on those two guys. It's hard to just hold them down because they're such terrific scorers.
What happened in this game? Now, in the second half, Cowboys took the lead back after trailing at halftime, and then what was basically seesaw the rest of the way?
Well, and we had a 6-point lead with a minute to go, and Fowler comes down, a young man who used to play at the University of Oklahoma, and hits his only 3-point shot of the game. We throw it away, Doug makes a poor judgment. They triple team him, and he loses the ball. They score, and they foul him, and in the last minute he hit 2 out of 4, and eventually hit the one free throw that won the game for us. But they came down right at the buzzer and had a chance to win it, and almost tipped it in.
Yeah, I don't know if your heart can stand it, because we're going to see it again up close and personal, and I know a lot of our viewers are going to see this for the first time, so kind of get yourself prepared as we head down the home stretch of this game, because I don't know how in the world the ball stayed out twice. It covered every inch of the rim.
Well, we shot the ball well in this ball game, 76% at the free throw line, 50% from the field, and when you shoot the ball well, it has a tendency to cover up all your shortcomings, and when you don't shoot the ball well, it just really makes the other things stand out that you're doing wrong.
We found that out several nights later,
we did
not?
Against Nebraska.
Now we're coming up to the frantic finish right here, and here's the foul on Gottlieb.
Fowler fouls Doug. I'm not sure that Coach Tubbs wanted that foul, but Doug hits the first one, misses the second one, and they have the basketball, and that's Fowler with the ball. I thought that Pete took a charge here, which he did when you look at the film, but they're not going to call that late in the game. But they missed a shot, and most games that are won at the buzzer are not won on the first shot. They're won on the second shot, and that's the thing we're always telling our players. You've got to make sure you box out and don't give them that second opportunity. So we had a little luck on our side when we won that ball game like we did. But a big win over the Frogs, and now we open conference play down at College Station. And the first half, I thought it was pretty sloppy on the part of both ball clubs. We got out and we're up on them 44-38 at halftime. But in the second half, we probably played the best 20 minutes that we played all season. And like I said, when you shoot the ball well, it just camouflages a lot of your shortcomings. We shot 85% in the second half. 85%, 17 out of 20.
You know, if you could bottle that now, you'd never lose a ball game. You could figure a way how to do that game in and game out, but you've said it so many times, once we got a double-digit lead, I think it was 13-14, all of a sudden that basket becomes a little bigger.
Well, it looks like a bathtub. Everybody thinks they can hit it, and we just did a great job in passing the ball and taking good shots. We broke the record that the Razorback club I had coached had against the Aggies at home as far as field goal percentage. We shot 69%. I think the old record was like 66%.
That was the Cowboys' widest margin of victory on the road since 1949, and one that certainly you thought would set the stage for things to come. We'll watch this one, but we saw the other side of the coin a couple of nights later.
Well, we shot 20 out of 22 free throws, which is something we are getting better at doing. Is we've been hitting a higher percentage. Early in the year, we were shooting very poorly from the free pitch line.
What'd you tell them at halftime? It was a completely different ball game.
Well, I gave him
a do better?
A little do better talk.
One guy who heard it was certainly Desmond Mason. He came out and took over the second half.
Desmond didn't play very well the first 20 minutes, but in the second half he really lit it up and had 21 points. Adrian also played extremely well, had 25 points. We had 5 guys in double figures.
It was quiet in that place, wasn't it?
Well, that place is really difficult to play as an opponent or as a visiting team when that place is full. It's this is the last year we'll have to go to G. Riley White, but Reveille, their mascot wasn't there, their 150-piece band wasn't there, their yell leaders weren't there, so it was kind of like playing on a neutral floor because we had a lot of fans from South Texas, from the Houston area, that had driven up to cheer us on.
Boy, they how do we put this tactfully? It just seemed like that they lost a little bit of interest when it got to be about 20, 25 points, and the Cowboys had any kind of shot they wanted in the last 6 or 7 minutes.
Well, sometimes when ball clubs get that far behind, you know, they lose some intensity, and we just seem to play it all the way out, and we're certainly not 35 points better than the Aggies. When they come to our place, it'll be a tough ball game. Tony Baroni's got a nice team, and they're going to win some games in our league. They
have some individuals who can cause you some problems, and we talked on our pregame show. You compared, say, A&M's athletic talent with what Nebraska brought in. It could be comparable athletically, but they don't have a guy like Lou.
Well, that's the difference. I think in all the other positions, they're probably just as good athletes, maybe just as good as basketball players, but they don't have Lou, and Lou is certainly one of the top guards in the Big 12.
Well, speaking of Lou, we got a chance to see him up close and personal. Cowboys back home, and that basket turned out to be a little smaller against Nebraska than it was against A&M.
We got off to a really fast start. I think we had them down 11-2, and it looked like we were in good shape. Good steal by Doug Gottlieb. He lays it up. Crowd was going wild at that point. And over the last 11 minutes of the first half, we get outscored 22-11, and we go into intermission 3 points behind, 28-25. We shot 35% for the game, and it's pretty hard to win against a quality team when you shoot that poorly.
You know, it looked like the first 7 or 8 minutes, 6 minutes of the game against Nebraska, it looked like an extension of the A&M game.
Oh, we played about the first 4 minutes. We really played outstanding basketball, and I don't know, we just seemed like we lost our intensity, and I don't think Nebraska, to start the game out, ever thought they had a chance, because we've had such a great home court record, not only in non-conference play but in conference play. And but as the game wore on, they gained more and more confidence, and they played the game late, just like you want to play on the road. They really used the clock well, and then our defense would break down, and we just couldn't stop them. They shot 60% from the field in the second half. Pete had a chance to pull us to 1 point. He had a 1-on-1 with 15 seconds to go, and he missed the front end of the 1-on-1. But Pete didn't score in the first half, but came on in the second half to lead us in scoring.
See a great tip right there. He was all over the basket, all over the glass in the second half.
Joe had a horrible night shooting. He hit the first 2 baskets and then went 0 for 12 the rest of the way. Doug Gottlieb shooting 1 from front of our bench.
Well, if I've heard you say it once, I've heard you say it 1,000 times in practice each and every day. And it's not like we don't practice against the zone, but the penetration factor was not there.
Well, what happened, our big guys didn't move quickly enough inside, and our perimeter players didn't penetrate the seams of the defense. And as the game wore on, they just kept pushing us out, and the only thing we were doing, playing catch around the perimeter. And you've got to attack zones. You can't just be that passive. And then when we did good shots, we missed them like that. Or it's a great effort by Peterson.
That is, and of course that's the final shot you're going to see as the Cowboys drop a tough one to Nebraska, 1-1 now in conference play. And I'm sure fans want to know, as we get ready to take on Texas Tech Saturday night, what kind of mood is the team in, and how will they bounce back?
Well, we got the Red Raiders on Saturday night, and that's going to be a tough assignment. James Dickey, who was my assistant for 8 years, got a good ball club, got 3 terrific perimeter shooters. Corey Carr very well could be the best off guard in our conference. They won 7 out of 8 games in a row, or 7 out of their last 8 games. So he's really got them going in the right direction. We're a young ball club, and I thought the youth really was displayed when we played Nebraska. We just made too many mistakes. The worst game we've played this year. We'll see what we're made of when we play the Red Raiders Saturday night. You know, I look at the Big 12, outside of Kansas, I'm not sure there's much difference between the other ball clubs. I think you're going to find probably more teams winning on the road in the Big 12 this year than in past seasons.
You know, it's hard to believe we've been doing this now for 8 years. It's true, and we're going to explain on this week's Off the Card feature when we return to the Eddie Sutton Show. You know, as most of you know by now, since Eddie arrived, we've been taking his weekly radio call-in show on the road to various living groups around campus, especially when school is in. And we probably have more fun than we ought to. We probably have more fun than the kids do. On this week's Off the Court feature, Wade Peterson is going to take you on one of these house calls. 2678, come on in and join us. This is the Eddie Sutton Call-In Show. We're coming to you live from the Pi-Phi House on the campus of Oklahoma State University. This is the Eddie Sutton Call-In Show, and you are on the Cowboy Network.
Eddie Sutton truly believes in taking the message to the people. In this case, spending time with Oklahoma State's most precious resource, the young people who make up OSU's impressive student body.
Hi, this is Katie Hull from Stillwater, Oklahoma. We're here at the Pi Beta Phi House with the Eddie Sutton Show.
I think they're all great representatives of Oklahoma State University. All of them are good students, and I think they're just good people. We all get older.
Since he returned to Stillwater 7+ years ago, Coach Sutton has spent part of each week during basketball season with the students, visiting with most every living group on campus.
And I have coached a long time. I've said this before, I'm one of the dinosaurs of college coaching, but...
In fact, a good number of these houses have invited Coach Sutton time and time again to spend a Monday evening in their home. The list to host his weekly radio show has grown with each new season.
If you'd like to talk to Coach Sutton, you can give him a call at 1-888-246-2678. Now back to Tom.
Practice ran a little.
I knew it was going to.
It wasn't going very well.
I could tell. But you're in a better mood than you were 10 minutes ago.
It always makes me in a good mood to come over to Pi Phi House.
I knew it would.
It has become the best of both worlds. Talking to the many Oklahoma State fans who listen to the show in and around a 25-state area, and answering questions from the live standing room only audiences at every site.
What's your favorite aspect of coaching, whether it be shooting, defense, or just whatever?
I really enjoy the teaching aspect as much as anything. I've always thought of myself as an educator, and certainly like to play the games, but I like practice sessions about as much as the games. If they don't do well, I get on them, see? I mean.
We have Lisa
Every house
Buck
has its own story to tell.
Okay, like TD said, we are going to compete in the Nike College Flag Football Championships in New Orleans, and our team members include, we've got Jenny Mercer. You guys want to just raise your hand, maybe?
Sometimes it is hard to determine just who has the most fun, the students or Coach Sutton.
I really have a great time when I come over here, so invite me back, will you please? Tom, we have a great time going to the different fraternities and sororities, and that particular evening we were at the Pi Phi House, and you heard the young lady say that they were going to represent Oklahoma State in the flag football championships in New Orleans, and they finished 5th, and that's pretty good.
That is, and they were proud of that for sure. The Notebook and a look at a very tough week ahead. That all is ahead on the Eddie Sutton Show. We're back after this timeout. We're back, and let's get right to the Notebook, Eddie. Wild ride, this is what we call it. Crazy start for the Big 12.
I think other than Kansas, the other 11 schools in the Big 12 are pretty evenly matched, and I think you're going to see some ups and downs, and I think one of the things that is happening, a lot of young ball clubs in the league.
Give us the kind of the bottom line. What is the rule on a midterm transfer Division I?
If you transfer from one school to another in football or basketball, you have to lay out 2 semesters before you become eligible. In other sports, if you get a release, you can transfer and be eligible immediately.
Stay in touch. We call this next item. I know you do stay in touch with a lot of former players.
Well, once a player plays in my program, he becomes part of my family forever. And I do keep in touch with a lot of our players. I've got young man Jimmy Counts who played for me and coached for me at Arkansas, is coming over Saturday night to see the Texas Tech game. He's now a thoracic surgeon, so most of the guys that have played for me have gone on to do well.
You mentioned Tech, another tough outing.
Tough outing, then at home, and then we go on the road next week to Baylor and to University of Missouri, so we'll hook it up with Norm next week. He's had a strange go, beat a great Illinois team, beat a great Maryland team, got beat by 50 by K-State, came back and beat Texas, so that's inconsistency.
Well, thanks for being with us this week. We appreciate your attention and all your involvement on the show. And again, Saturday night, Cowboys Texas Tech, ESPN, 8:30 tip-off. Be there as the Cowboys try to get back on the winning track. For Eddie Sutton, all the crew here at Educational Television Services, Tom Dirato. Goodbye, everybody.